Welcome to our first Tuesday session of the Industrial Heartland and Cleveland Summit. Our first session today is Akron Civic Commons, co-creation, co-design, and co-stewardship of accessible, equitable, and welcoming parks, trails, and public spaces. That's a really long title for a very exciting project. Hopefully some of you made it into the networking session just before this and had beneficial conversations, perhaps about yesterday's informative opening sessions and a great trails showcase. So we have some housekeeping. We are in webinar mode, so you are not able to be seen or heard. The chat function is disabled for you. But any questions that you have, please put them in the Q&A because we will be referring to that and answering those questions. This is being recorded and it will be available to you at ihearttrails.org, as well as Rails to Trails Conservancy's YouTube channel. So I wanted to let you know in advance that we would like you to fill out the online session evaluation after the session is over. There will be a link to that survey provided in the chat for you. Directly after the session, there will be a 30-minute breakout discussion that we invite you to join. It will be a continuation of the discussion and a link will be provided in the chat. You have to go to a separate meeting room. So let's get to our session. This is this session about an exciting game-changing project called Akron Civic Commons. And here to talk about it are Dan Rice, President and CEO of Ohio Erie Canalway Coalition, Kyle Kudichieff, Program Director of the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, and Sandy Salisbury, Vice Chair of the Summit Lake Community Development Corporation. Take it away, Dan.
Thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you very much for the opportunity to share some information with you, as you indicated, about a really exciting and transformational project along the Ohio Erie Canal Towpath Trail, along 3 miles of that, going through 3 neighborhoods in Akron. And I'm just so honored and humbled to be on this journey with Kyle Kudichieff, the program director with the Knight Foundation. I'll never forget when Kyle pitched this idea about 6 years ago and said, hey, what do you think about this? And we said, sure, not really knowing what we were committing to. But I will honestly tell you, it's been one of the most transformational projects that I've ever been involved with. And because of that, I've been able to meet people like Sandy Salisbury, Grace Hudson, who have welcomed me into their Summit Lake family. And I feel so honored and humbled to be able to work on this project. And it really has changed me personally, our organization, and we're just excited to share this information. So I'm going to turn over to Kyle. He's going to give you some background information, and then Sandy and I are going to jump in here. So Kyle, take it away.
Thanks, Dan. It's fond memories going back to the early days of Civic Commons. This slide gives you a flavor for, we're not going to spend much time on the national structure, but I just want to share that it was JPB, Kresge, Rockefeller, and Knight Foundations that initially cooked up this concept of reimagining the Civic Commons. And Akron was fortunate to be one of the first 5 cities that were selected to participate in the initial cohort, along with Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Memphis. And being a part of that team, being able to see what the cities have been working on, learning together, has been extremely important to the decisions that we've made over the course of those years. So if you'd like to learn more about the national structure, I encourage you to visit Civic Commons US, and that'll give you an overview. But we're going to spend a lot of time talking about physical space and relationship building in the course of this presentation, but we wanted to lead with the 4 principles that guide our Civic Commons work. There's civic engagement, which is obviously working with the residents, value creation, socioeconomic mixing, how is everyone invited to be involved, and then of course environmental sustainability, which is should come as no surprise to the folks that are on this webinar today. But these are really the 4 areas where we focus our work. And as Dan mentioned in the intro, the Ohio Erie Canalway is the thread of public space upon which our project has been built. None of this work would be possible without Dan's leadership and the fact that this asset happens to run right through the core of the downtown of the city of Akron. And so let's go to the next slide, because these folks know the Towpath Trail well. The other thing we wanted to lead with is none of this would be possible without the partnership with the city of Akron. Much of the land that we're working on, they own, and without that relationship, we wouldn't be doing this. So our mayor, Mayor Horgan, said here, with so many major projects taking place in Akron, it is imperative that we engage communities in the iterative design process. And this quote is particularly powerful as we think about the federal funding that's coming to cities like Cleveland and Akron and so many other folks. The fact that we've been doing this work for 4 years, we think, and we're seeing, is helping the city make decisions on how to allocate those new resources in ways that are going to benefit all people and create high quality public spaces in the city. So let's go to the next slide. So this is our project footprint. The orangish red line that you see running through the center is the Towpath Trail. You have where the cursor is to the north there are the 3 neighborhoods that Dan mentioned are downtown Akron, which didn't used to be a neighborhood, but is certainly becoming one today. Ohio Erie Canal Park, which is the neighborhood in the middle, and then Summit Lake, which is the largest body of water in the city of Akron. And actually its name, its elevation, that water runs north to Cleveland. But a lot of local people in Akron don't know that and don't know its place of importance in the topography and the waterways of Akron. The other thing worth noting at this slide, and I know many of our cities and many of the folks on this call are well versed in this issue, but the interstate highways with I-77 cutting east and west in the 60s and Route 59 coming in the late 70s and early 80s, this is redlining, this is cut off the Summit Lake neighborhood, decimated housing, relationships, all those kind of things. And so this project, the Towpath Trail, is really a stent that has kept life flowing through this area that didn't lend itself to whimsy and lollygagging and recreation and fun. I mean, that trail was really a key asset upon which we started to build our work. And before we dive into the team, I just want to share that part of the twist of reimagining the Civic Commons, and when we were invited to be considered to be selected for it, it's not, I think the difference with Civic Commons is that it is a network approach. When we started thinking about this 3-mile section of trail in which we were going to work, we were thinking about the network of public spaces that are adjacent to it, not just the library or Lock 3 Park or Summit Lake Park. And as communities, we tend to do the one thing, and we really tried to look at it as a network approach. What are all the places that are public for everyone, and how could those things work together in ways that they couldn't if they were independent to improve the quality of life for everybody within the core? So that network approach is really key to Civic Commons. Go to the next slide.
Bill and Tom too mentioned is that the other reason we selected these 3 neighborhoods is because literally we documented people coming from Cuyahoga Valley National Park, coming from some metro parks, and stopping right here at State Route 59 where my cursor is and turning right around and going north. We heard people coming up, getting close to Summit Lake and saying, you know what, if nothing's bad happened to me, but I heard it's kind of a sketch neighborhood, and turning back around. So this was 3 miles of the least visited of the 101 miles of the Topaz Trail. And to Kyle's point, we asked ourselves, why is that? This is some of the most spectacular scenery and resources in 101 miles, but why? How can we change that perception? Just because you're going through an urban area, it doesn't mean it can't be a good high quality experience.
And that user experience, Dan, of different materials, no wayfinding, all the stuff that the trail and park folks know so well, that 3 miles of section, you felt like you wanted to just get out of there and get back to the comfort and amenities of the national park to the north, metro parks to the north, and then the metro parks to the south. But that's changing. And none of our work would be possible without partnership. Every month, Dan leads what we call our core team meeting, that is the entities that you see here and more coming together each month for an hour and a half. And there's a lot of work, like any good board or working group, a lot of work happens between the formal meetings, but it's really about how might these organizations bring their resources into this fairly narrow footprint of the city of Akron and work together. And then we see this kind of a ripple effect where the principles learned within the project footprint end up impacting Summit Metro Parks countywide or Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority citywide and that kind of thing. So we're really seeing that dynamic, and we'll share more here as we go through the slides. So next slide, Dan. So we want to be very clear as well. Our work is resident-led, resident-centered, residents first. They are our top priority. Everybody else is welcome too, and whether it's residents in the city of Akron or County of Summit or the Topaz Trail users that are coming regionally and nationally, but really the residents are first in our work, and that's very important to us. Just to quickly highlight, downtown. I know many of you are familiar with downtown spaces like this. This is our mighty Cascade Plaza, which is kind of an oversized putting green space that sits on top of a leaky 5-story parking deck. There's thousands of employees around this public space, but aside from a couple people out to have a cigarette or something like that, you feel like you're trespassing. There's no invitation to come out of the buildings. And this was taken in 2016. Dan, the next phase is, I know this is familiar to you folks, but how are we inviting? It's not the employees' fault that people aren't coming out and using the public space. What's the invitation? What's the fun? What's the exciting thing that's happening? So food trucks, yoga, games, roller skating. Downtown Akron Partnership is our lead partner in activating the public spaces in downtown. And not just thinking about public space during the day, but 24/7, 365. What's the evening experience? What's the invitation to come down and see the Canalway? That mural is now complete. That's the north side of the Akron Civic Theater at Lot 4 in downtown. But this is becoming a magical place. And it was a place that you wouldn't want to be in at night because you were the only one and it was dark and so on. So,
matter of fact, actually, when we actually installed the lighting here, people actually said, where did this come from? And
right,
so
like we built it.
It's actually been here for almost 200 years. And it was just a matter of adding some lighting. And then I don't know, Kyle, if you want to reference the Bowery project, which is, the $40 million investment, just the buildings to the left there.
Yeah, one of the things that is real in Akron, when in 2018, there were 450 market rate apartments in the core of the city of Akron. Today, as we talk at you through this webinar, there are 597 additional apartments over 7 different projects that are currently on development, and we believe there's more to come. But the Bowery was the first mover. Those were vacant, blighted, debated for demo buildings that have now been developed into mixed use. The night stage, which is a 225-seat performance stage, was added to the Civic Theaters complex. And then you have, I think it's around 110 apartment units up above. So, our downtown's becoming a neighborhood again. And these public assets are critical for that life. And this is the mighty Lock 3. It is our Central Park in downtown. It is a very successful special event venue, but has not been successful as an everyday park. And the city and the leadership at Lock 3 has done an excellent job of stretching budgets and programming and doing unique stuff. But we believe this park can be successful as both the special event venue and the everyday park, where we'd meet for coffee or a beer or whatever, and walk your dog, take your kids in the center of downtown. So more to come on Lock 3 here in a minute.
And as Kyle's mentioned, we'll share with you some really cool development plans, but people think of Lock 3 as our Central Park. It's where people gather, but the Lock aspect and the Canal aspect is actually kind of hidden, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The phrase I've used about our public spaces sometimes in Akron, they're either down low or they're up high. They're almost like hidden in plain sight. And so right here is the Ohio Erie Canal as it goes along the back side of the park on the west side. The Topaz Trail goes through here. There's another route that kind of goes up here on the street level. It is confusing, but that's one of the things we're trying to address here in Akron.
One thing just to note, kind of the specialness of Lock 3. In 2016, when the Cavs won the NBA championship and LeBron brought the trophy after a big party in Cleveland down to Akron, I was fortunate to attend. This place was packed. And LeBron brought it right to the center of the stage in Lock 3 because it is our central park. It is our central gathering place. And I love that that was the place he took it, because it just reminds us that this is the center of public life in Akron, and we got to get it right. So not all programming has to be big and fancy and elaborate. We love small. We love s'mores. We love paper lanterns. We love, and a lot of the trust building has come from a steady rhythm of creating events and programming, not just about the physical transformation of the space, which is super important, but also how are we inviting residents in every month, every week, to come participate in fun, quirky, creative, enjoyable ways. So we'll share more examples as we go through the deck. But our main event is Summit Lake, and Dan and Sandy are going to share about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how people come together around s'mores and fire pits. And it's real easy. Everybody loves food. Everybody loves a nice fire. So the third space we'd like to talk about is Summit Lake. And this is where Sandy and I are going to kind of tag team this, because Sandy is a longtime resident. She moved there when she was 12. That's why she looks so young right now. But she is a longtime resident of Summit Lake. It's a very special... What was that, Sandy?
I said at 12, I was in the city of Detroit. I was a Michigan resident.
But at one time, it was a place for play. It was a destination. It was an amusement park. But as you see by this photo, unfortunately, it was a destination for only one group of people, and that was white people. And then what happened is, over the years, so this is the photo on the left is pre-urban renewal. You see the lake, you see housing, you see neighborhoods, you see connectivity. And then you see on the right, 1969, what we did. We basically cut Summit Lake off from the neighborhoods. State Route 59 is not yet built here yet. It was actually built a little bit later on, but it also cut through the heart of our neighborhoods. And so we should not be surprised that Summit Lake is experiencing the challenges it experiences, because we as a community have literally turned our back on this neighborhood. There used to be 2 schools in Summit Lake, one right here on the North Shore, Margaret Park, one up at Lincoln School. And I believe actually your children went to Lincoln School, right, Sandy?
Yes, they did.
And I think they had a swimming pool, didn't they?
Yes, I think they were the only school that had a swimming pool in Akron.
And so that's where many of the kids learn how to swim. But then, so we cut the neighborhood off with the highways. We close the schools. And then we wonder why the fabric of a neighborhood declines after that. And then industry basically pumped water from Summit Lake to the factories, and then they pumped the dirty water back into Summit Lake. And so none of this should be a surprise to any of us. But yet, as Kyle has said, Summit Lake has still survived. And this is the North Shore Summit Lake, showing you some of the beauty. You see this kind of stretch here through the grass. That is testing another idea of a trail around Summit Lake, because we heard from the neighborhood residents, they want to be able to walk either side to either neighborhood. They don't want to have to drive. But unfortunately, there aren't really too many services in Summit Lake. There are no banks in the neighborhood, very few grocery stores, no pharmacy, no dry cleaners, no a place to get a cup of coffee. And so that's where the value creation comes in. And we've asked neighborhood residents, what would you like to see? This is what Summit Lake looked like before Akron Civic Commons. There was only one bench at this lake, and that bench didn't even face the lake. And I know sometimes people chuckle about that, but there's nothing funny about that. What does that say about us, how we care about other people, and how we care about these resources? Sandy, I don't know if you want to share the story. Remember when people first we first talking about Summit Lake, what their ideas were, or what was their reaction?
Okay, I just want to jump in now, because everything you said is so true. When I did come to Akron community in 1982, there were banks within walking distance. There was a pharmacy within walking distance. There were meat markets and different things. The neighborhood had residents, and we had schools. The kids were able to walk to school. All my children walked to school. And so now, fast forwarding today, there aren't any schools. I have grandchildren in the neighborhood, and they are bused. In the morning, I see buses coming from different areas, picking up the children and taking them out the neighborhood. And I do believe, because of what is going on with Civic Commons and other organizations coming in, I think we're going to see a school back. I'm determined to see a school back in this community. And I believe that the Civic Commons process that has come along is bringing a renewal to the neighborhood. As Dan said, you know, I didn't realize that the only bench that was in Summit Lake didn't face the lake until Civic Commons came along and point that out, because I wouldn't even come down here to Summit Lake, and I can walk from my house to Summit Lake in about 10 minutes. And so the things that was, it was like a diamond in the rough. It was so much here to appreciate and enjoy. But until Civic Commons came along and engaged with this community and let us know, listen, there's beauty on the other side of the bushes and the trees that is hidden. There was a beautiful lake. I didn't realize how beautiful the lake was until Civic Commons came, because it was hidden. It was hidden. Only way I could see it if I drove over, we have a Kenmore Avenue and it has a bridge. And that's the only time I ever caught a view of the lake, or if I was on the freeway coming home. Other than that, there wasn't any view of Summit Lake, but that has all changed. And I'm just looking forward to the things that's coming ahead. But one thing Dan said early on, that the part about coming into our community, they engaged and made the community residents feel like, you know, this is your community. We want to see what we want to know, what you want to see. And that was the first since I've been here. There was someone who came before Civic Commons, and they came with a message of, this is what we want to do. This is what we want you to see. And I thought that was very rude. It's like, you know, why invite me to a conversation when you have already decided what you want to do with the space that I have to live in. And so the Civic Commons was a total about face. It was totally different. So this is where we are today, because Civic Commons did come along and say, listen, this is your community. We've come to know, want to know what is it that you want, and to implement those things. So it's been a journey of trust. And I've come to learn that the people who were coming into the community this time with Civic Commons was not coming just with a message of how do I convince them to bring what I really want and make them think this is what they want too, versus, you know, we really care about what do you want to see. They realized what we had in the midst of our community, and we didn't, because it was so well hidden from us.
Well, Sandy, thank you for talking about that, because I would like you to share the story if you're comfortable, about how, you know, we worked on building trust, and you told me one time you Googled me.
Yes, I did. Yes. So when Civic Commons came, I sat in on one of the first meetings, and I was under the impression that because of who came before, saying they had did surveys and asked the residents what they want, and which in all reality, it was certain people they picked within the neighborhood and asked questions who went along with what they wanted. When Civic Commons came, and I remember Dan standing at a meeting and said, we heard what you wanted. And I was thinking, well, I've been sitting in the same spot for over 30 years and nobody's never come to my door and asked me anything. So how could you possibly know what I want? And so, but I made that statement at this meeting, and I was angry at the time, but I believe I did say it with some level of respect. And he listened to what I had to say. He realized, okay, we overlooked some things, and they went back to the drawing board, and you realize everybody wasn't contacted. Everybody wasn't engaged in a conversation about why you are here and what is it that you're coming to bring into the community. And so what hooked me to the process was the fact, other than Googling Dan Rice and trying to find out was he up to no good, the more I dug, the squeaky clean he was. So, I said, well, I'm gonna give him a try, and see, I'm gonna get on board and see where this train takes us. So anyway, what he did was he engaged in hiring people within our community to do the surveys, knocking on door to door. And that was something I wasn't expecting. That was something that had never been done before. And that spoke volumes to me to where, okay, let this guard down that you have, give this process a chance. I had to give up that, I'm going to find something. If it's the last thing I do, I can't trust them. But, it taught me that if they were willing to come and gamble on coming in this community and reaching out and being vulnerable to us, we had to return that. And has everybody completely in the community done that? No. But I believe that's where my job comes in, where I have to get on the ground, Grace and I, and do our work and letting our neighborhood and our neighbors know, listen, this is not a scam. This is not something that they're trying to do to come and, fix it up and then sweep us out, that this is a legit operation. And I'm more than happy to play a part in doing that and make it happen.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Sandy. And I think if there's one big lesson to take away from all of this, and that is the reason why Akron Civic Commons works is because of Sandy Salisbury and neighborhood residents. They took a huge risk on us. They were willing to be vulnerable. And we need to be vulnerable to hear the pain that they have been suffering, quite frankly, over years of disinvestment. They'd heard it all before from white privileged males like me and everybody else. Here's the latest idea. And because they took a risk on us, and I think that it's incumbent upon us, we owe it to them to seek understanding while listening and to do what we say we're going to do. But the key thing I just wanted to take away here is that it's people like Sandy and the neighborhood residents deserve all the credit. They really do. They gave us a chance here. So this is an amazing story.
Hey,
Go ahead, Kyle.
I was going to say, before we go into the pump house, can you go back one slide? Because we didn't talk about the beach that I think is just real quick. It is an important element to building trust. Do one of you want to touch on this 200-meter section of a 2.5 mile shoreline that showed change?
Yep. Well, and what Kyle's introducing there is that, you couldn't see the lake. And what I was thinking, Sandy, is our first meeting, one of our first meetings we had, the residents basically said, put a fence around the lake because we're afraid our kids are going to drown. And we actually didn't say anything. People like Sandy and Grace and other people said, no. You need to take care of your children. You need to watch after your children and open up the lake so people can see where the water begins and the land ends. And that was the challenge. And so to Kyle's point, that's why we tested this idea. This was a test. The pavilion that you see here, this area here, was a tent, because we heard from people like Sandy that they maybe want to have birthday parties, family reunions, retirement parties. But we weren't sure if the tent was in the right place, if it was the right size. And that's the whole idea around this iterative design thinking. You test an idea, as the folks in Detroit say, light, quick, and inexpensive. And by the way, that's a different way of doing business. The other way of doing business is, oh, you got this great idea. We got to raise $1 million, and then let's just go ahead and do it. And you hire an engineer, but we don't need an engineer. We got Sandy, we got Grace, we got Marcus. I mean, we have neighborhood residents who can tell us where these things should go.
And we should, just to mention too, one of the magic words in the early days of Civic Commons was removable. If the furniture is removable, if the lights are removable, the city, other stakeholders, if chaos had ensued at this particular park, we could have said, okay, we'll pull the furniture, we'll pull the umbrellas, that's on us, we'll pivot. 4 years later, the only problem that's been had at this park is that the trash cans get too full on days when the weather's really nice because everybody's using it. And you will see Towpath Trail users, guys on the speed bikes and spandex, and kids from the neighborhood coming down to throw some rocks in the water. It's a really cool place and helped us to demonstrate, imagine what a signature park at Summit Lake, you know, real public space that invites people to the water could do here. But, and it also, I think, demonstrated to the residents, we're not just talking, we're not just planning for 10 years, we're ready to do alongside with you and build these spaces together.
Absolutely. This place has a sunset that, you know, Florida eat your heart out. I could come down in the evening and sit on one of those swings or at that table and see a sunset that is postcard picture quality. And that's something I never dreamed I would ever see in Summit Lake community. I never dreamed that this little beach area would be a part of this community. For years, I've been here and I always went to Goodyear Park because the idea of even coming to Summit Lake to do anything was out of the question. But now I've been given a choice. I've been given a place, an option to come right in my neighborhood and enjoy family time or my neighbors, or come down and read a book, or come and relax in the evening after, you know, just before bedtime. This place has been truly transformed, and I'm thankful for it because, like Kyle and Dan said, this was something that was done as a partnership. You know, you give a lot of credit to the residents, but you brought the residents this opportunity to make it happen. So it's a win-win all the way around.
Thank you so much, Sandy. And so another really cool test of an idea is that over the past, early on, Reimagine Civic Commons, we asked neighborhood residents, what type of program would you like to see? And besides a place to sit, talk, and have a grill, which you'll notice you see a lot of spaces right here, places to sit, talk, and have a grill. They wanted things like fishing classes, bird watching, maybe Zumba classes. And so this is an old pump station. Actually, one of the tire rubber companies actually pumped water from Summit Lake. This was actually to Firestone. And so we tested the idea of a pop-up nature center at the Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority Reach Center. Because it was so popular, Summit Metro Park said, you know what? We want to have a permanent place right here at Summit Lake. And I have to be honest with you, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, some of the Metro Parks probably would not have even thought about going to Summit Lake because that's not what they did. But because, again, they recognize the need, the fact that everybody deserves great nature programming, not just the suburbs. Why not in the inner city? So to their credit, they changed as an organization, worked with Kyle, worked with the city of Akron. This is now the Summit Lake Nature Center. And we invite you all to come down. It's going to be open in July. And I can guarantee you it's going to knock your socks off. You're actually going to say, where did this come from? But it really speaks to equity in public spaces. I know we talk about that a lot. Summit Metro Parks and Akron Civic Commons and the neighborhood residents are really doing it. And to me, I think it sends a very powerful message. Everybody deserves access to these type of resources.
And there is no partner that could have done this building at the highest. Nobody builds it better than Summit Metro Parks in Summit County, bar none. Nobody does it better. But the building is just the beginning. It's the programming. It's the commitment that they've made in perpetuity to fishing. You know, all the programming stuff that's going to happen here is really going to be amazing. And we're so excited for it to finally open in July. And one other quick note, the buildings behind it, it is directly adjacent to Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority's Summit Lake Apartments. So those residents, it is now, we went from a haunted house to a community like asset, right? That they could shoot a basketball. It's like right there. So it's super, we're really excited, as you can tell, for it to open next month.
In addition, people ask, well, what about the lake? What about the water quality? Through Kyle's leadership, we actually took Summit Lake to the doctor because people said, oh, don't touch the water. Your skin is going to peel. The fish are going to have, 3 heads. And what we learned was the water in Summit Lake is no different than the water in Buckeye Lake, Mosquito Lake, the Portage Lakes, Lake Erie, any river. Would you want to wash your hands after you put your hand in the lake? Of course you would. But the water quality is fine. So we've tested ideas like canoeing, kayaking. And as you probably saw in the video yesterday, come on down for a s'mores party. Come on down for a canoe ride. Because once we think you actually spend time in the space, you'll start to change your perception of the space. And people, even today, when we talk about Summit Lake, we watch people's nonverbal reactions. They're like, oh, not so sure I should, spend time in the water. Well, of course you should, because there's osprey, blue heron, kingfishers. And if those natural resources are coming back, that's an indicator. The health of Summit Lake is really good. And what's really cool, the trail that goes around Summit Lake, we've actually seen at least 2 pairs of red fox who have living on the North Shore of Summit Lake. And again, who would have thought you'd see that right in the heart of a downtown Akron? And to me, that's the beauty. Go ahead, Sandy.
No, I was just thinking back a few weeks back, you and I and another gentleman were walking along the trail, and there were 2 gentlemen in a boat out there fishing, and they caught this huge fish, and they were catching dinner. And so, you see people out there all the time now going out to fish. There are people who riding their bicycles past my house with their fishing poles. They're on their way to Summit Lake to catch dinner. So it's so much life has been brought back to this area, and people are enjoying what was already here that was so hidden from us. And I am so thankful that Civic Commons and all you guys came along, and it's like you pulled the curtain back and let us see, what was already here all along that was hidden. And not only did you reveal it to us, but you opened up an invitation. Listen, we want you to come and be a part of the process of not only revealing this, but having amenities right at your reach where you can enjoy the lake right here in your backyard. And so I'm very appreciative for that, because like I said, any time of day I can hop in my car and go down there and sit down and take a book and read and do things I would never have dreamt of doing 15, 20 years ago. That was out of the question.
And Sandy doesn't just spend time down there. She walks the walk. Her grandsons are in our Summit Lake Ambassadors Youth Program. So we have 10 Summit Lake neighborhood youth ambassadors who have summer jobs. They started today. They're down there landscaping. They'll be painting tables. They'll be doing a lot of projects at Summit Lake. And on every Tuesday, like you see in this picture, free guided interpreted canoe trips. So come on down every Tuesday to Summit Lake. Also spend time at the farmers market, something that Sandy's also very active in. But I know we kind of want to keep moving along here, but I think this is one of Kyle's great phrases that, small wins bring big change. And we'll just kind of highlight some of the, things we've learned. The only way to do this is the resident-led design thinking process. You see the number of meetings there, and we continue to meet with neighborhood residents. Matter of fact, we have a meeting on Wednesday night to talk about how the design for the Summit Lake, Ohio Erie Canal, Topaz Trail is being developed. We've learned a lot about socioeconomic mixing. That if you do these creative programs, people from all backgrounds come together, because it doesn't matter your education, your race, your gender, your income, your experience. Everybody likes to have a nice s'mores party or a roller skate party on downtown. We've had questions regarding gentrification and displacement. We've had neighborhood residents saying, you've even said this, who's this for? Is this for me or the person coming from behind me? And so we early on stated right up front, this is for you, the residents. Matter of fact, we were even hesitant about inviting people from Hudson and Green and Cuyahoga Falls and Bath, because oftentimes there's a perception that people in communities of color, in disinvested community or low income, they don't deserve good quality spaces. Let's be honest. When you go to those more wealthier communities, of course they've got these nice parks. Of course they do. But in the disinvested community and the communities of Black and brown communities, not necessarily. And so we want to make sure that the neighborhood residents benefit from this first. So one of our partners created a wonderful photography apprenticeship program. That's what you see on the left. And then we hired, to Sandy's point, neighborhood residents to help steward the spaces. And we do that with our summer program as well. Environmental sustainability. We talked about, the water quality report. We do some of Metro Parks, our partners do a lot of environmental programs, a lot of cleanups, because one of the things we said early on is we're not doing this for anybody. We're doing this with people. So here's some of the things I think we learned, and I'll just kind of get go through them, and then Sandy and Kyle kind of comment on them. I'll kind of just, the first one here, we learned do while planning and doing what you say you're going to do. A good example would be early on, we had a proposal from a pretty prestigious planning firm for a plan for $400,000 for Summit Lake. And Kyle and I looked at each other and said, how can we look at Sandy and the neighborhood residents and say, we're going to spend $400,000 on a plan and you don't even get a bench? And it just didn't make any sense to us. So that's where we came up with the idea. You need to test ideas while you plan, but most importantly, do what you say you're going to do.
That's right.
Sandy, you want to take that one?
The fishing, this was something that was very exciting because a lot of the children in our neighborhood have never gone fishing. And just to look at the excitement in their faces and to see them enjoying this space, and that, you know, this is our fishing hole, this is our spot, and they come out, they enjoy it, and to see the excitement when they catch a fish. My little granddaughter, she was, I think Maya was maybe about 4 or 5 when Civic Commons came along, and I remember she caught a little fish, and she asked me, "Grandma, you gonna make French fries so we can go home and fry fish?" It wasn't big enough to feed her, but just her imagination got to take off. If she caught enough, she could feed the family and stuff like that. So this experience for the children, it was really good because they didn't have to leave their community to have the experience. And now this is something they look forward to. Before, they were at a loss. What do we do in the summer? What was it down here? Anything down here for the children to enjoy? And that played a part along with the metro parks. They brought this to the community, being able to get the kids out to teach them how to fish. They taught them water safety as well.
Yep. And really, residents do believe the change that they experience. We can talk about it all day, but they got to experience it. Kyle?
Absolutely.
This is a mantra of our team, which is that projects move at the speed of trust. Trust with the residents is priority one, and if we need to slow the project to build the trust, we will, because without it, nothing gets done the way it needs to. And we not to state the obvious, but 5 years in to this focused Civic Commons work, our work is exponentially better because of the resident engagement. It wouldn't be what it is without them.
Yeah. And the other thing I built on that just quickly, Cal, is that we have to be very intentional every step of the way. When we did the video that we shared yesterday with everybody, the first cut of that video had a bunch of B-roll of faces, white faces in particular, who were not residents. And we said, no, we cannot do that. People need to be represented if it's a video about Summit Lake, it has to show Summit Lake residents. And we literally went through every frame of that video and made sure that there was a Summit Lake resident represented in every phase of that video. If they weren't a resident, we cut it out.
And that same,
go ahead, Kyle.
Sorry, Dan.
No.
We hold that same standard for our project committees, our study teams. We're constantly trying to make sure that our project teams at whatever level are well represented by residents.
And then really, I mentioned this earlier about testing ideas light, quick. Detroit says light, quick, and cheap. I don't like cheap because it implies it's not high quality. So we call it light, quick, and inexpensive. But I will tell you, if you're looking to test ideas and do design thinking, strongly encourage you to do it. And like Kyle said, the key thing is with our government agencies, because when we first said we want to test a bunch of ideas, they were very resistant. But like Kyle said, when we used the word removable, their entire body language changed. It was like a magic key. It's like, really? If this doesn't work, you'll take it out? Of course we will. Now, we all know, and I'll say this publicly, we have no intentions of taking these things out, but we want to make them such high quality that it creates a demand for it. So as Kyle loves to say, this was the appetizer. Now we want to talk just briefly about the main event.
Yeah, and we want to be clear, we're not going to be light, quick, and inexpensive forever. We want to help prove the concept, get buy-in, build the project team, and then do something significant. So you saw a slide earlier of Lock 3, we want to quickly touch on some big plans for Lock 3 and Summit Lake as we close. So this is a overview of a Lock 3 refresh that has been designed by Olin Architects. They, many of you may know them. They also did the garden at the Akron Art Museum, which is arguably our finest public space downtown right now. But basically what you're adding to the space is greenery, shade, a park-like feel, but maintaining its capacity to hold up to 4,500 people. The stage is just a placeholder rendering. That is not the actual stage, but the rest of the park, that adding trees, that shade. Right now, you get cooked in Lock 3. There is nowhere to seek cover other than the shade from the buildings to the south. So Danny, this would be the rendering during the day. This would be the rendering at night during that special event place. We really want a place where we want to make it an everyday park and not at all compromise its capacity to hold concerts and so on. This would be a view into the park, probably 5 to 10 years into the greenery filling in, but really that garden feel is extremely important to us and to our many stakeholders. And then winter. We give up on winter all the time. Lock 3 has great ice skating and different program, Winterfest and so on. How do we capitalize on that momentum and extend it from January 1st to sometime in March, really to make it a destination in the wintertime? And let's go on to Summit Lake.
And again, all of these ideas, just to reinforce, came from neighborhood residents. These are not something that Kyle and I cooked up. It's what the neighborhood residents are looking for. So.
And this programming leads at the city of Akron. The team down at Lock 3 has been amazing about sharing their latest and greatest and pain points and trying to design around that.
So this is the north shore of Summit Lake. If you recall in an earlier slide, it's right next to the highway. So Interstate 77 is just to the north. This is the Ohio Erie Canal. And this is a connector to the Ohio Erie Canal Topaz Trail. The Topaz Trail is just down here on the right or east side. West is to the left and north is to the top. And so what we heard from neighborhood residents, they'd like to have a trail go all the way around Summit Lake. But when we get into the discussion groups, a good question for you all, is everybody getting along down here? And the answer is absolutely no. Akron, like many other communities, there's racial bias, there are challenges. And to be perfectly honest with you, that's why Sandy's leadership is so critical, because early on in meetings, when we were talking about the trail project, folks on the other side of the lake literally made statements like, we don't want those people on our side of the lake. Because the people on the other side of the lake, it's a different racial mix. They actually don't have sidewalks in front of their houses. So in their minds, they think of Summit Lake as a private lake. But quite frankly, that's why those values are very important. We remind them, this is not your lake, this is everybody's lake. And so we're all going to share. And by the way, that's actually why we need to do Akron Civic Commons, because we don't spend enough time with people who are different than us, have a different race, gender, income, and experience. So you just actually made the case for us, quite frankly. And so the neighborhood residents said, we want to trail around the lake. We'd like to maybe have a birthday party in this beautiful pavilion. We might actually want to get a cup of coffee, a sandwich, an ice cream cone, and then maybe borrow a canoe or kayak, because maybe I can't afford to do a canoe or kayak. We learned that from Philadelphia. They have a canoe or kayak share. And so many people have canoes or kayaks, they don't have places to store them. That's great. We'll provide you with free storage. But as part of that, then you're going to make sure that you allow people to borrow your kayak. And so those are just some of the innovations that we picked up. Did a lot of community outreach, having events at the farmers market. And also on the North Shore, we actually took people out to the North Shore, because we really believe that once you actually spend time in the space, it really transforms. And literally, here's the North Shore. You see the swings over here on the left-hand side. It's not that far. It's an absolutely beautiful view back to the Summit Lake area. So I'll scroll through the slides here, and Sandy, you feel free to chime in here. So this is so like I said, this is the Topaz Trail. The existing activations are right here on the east side. You see the trail kind of meandering through the space. And the key thing is getting people down to the front. We want to put a permanent boat launch ramp over here, because right now there's a boat launch ramp right on the Topaz Trail. And many of you folks who probably have actually ridden through Summit Lake, it actually creates a blockage. So when people put boats into the lake, it actually blocks the Topaz Trail. So we want to eliminate that. And then you see all these shaded, these jagged trees, those are existing trees we want to leave because it actually creates a little bit of a sound barrier.
One of my favorite things is participating in a meeting where the word boardwalk is regularly used at Summit Lake. It's awesome. I mean, it's getting right to that water's edge.
Yep.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to talk about the pavilion a little bit, Sandy.
One thing I really appreciate about this pavilion is that going back to what you said about the division between the communities, this is going to be something that's going to bring us closer, you know, versus dividing us more. And I think during this process, I have been able to talk more with people from Kenmore and share, you know, my feelings about what's going on, and they've shared their viewpoint of what's going on in Summit Lake. And, you know, at the end of the day, we realize we're human beings. When it's all said and done, we're human beings. It's not about our skin color or our income or any of those things that we allow to divide one another. But at the end of the day, a family wanting to come down here to enjoy the view of the lake, to do a birthday party, a graduation party, or whatever it may be. At the end of the day, we're doing it as human beings. We're doing it as residents. We're doing it as neighbors. And, you know, we're starting to have some common ground, and where we realize, you know, we can continue to let things divide us, or we can let the things that's coming into community bring us close together. And I see that process happening. It's happening a little slow, but it's happening just the same. So that I'm truly appreciative of. And once again, I never went around that whole lake until Civic Commons came. I never rode around the lake. I never experienced any of that until just recently. So once again, I'm truly appreciative of what Civic Commons is bringing to the community.
Thank you so much, Sandy. And then the last slide, just to kind of give you, so where are we at? Both of those projects we just shared with you are $10 million projects. And who would have thought in a pandemic, after a year later, we would have raised 13.7 million. So we're more than halfway there. And you see the donors there. Certainly the Knight Foundation has been transformational, the City of Akron commitment, but you also see a lot of individual donors. Summit County government, the Ohio Erie Canalway, the state of Ohio. We're going to get there. Matter of fact, I'm pretty confident by the end of this year, both of these projects are going to be fully funded. And we are going to be able to deliver on that promise to our neighborhood residents to build accessible, equitable, and welcoming parks, trails, and public spaces. So with that, thank you so much for your attention. I know we went a little bit long there, Andrea, but my apologies.
You just can't interrupt Dan when he starts to preach, man. He just goes. Thank you, Dan, Kyle, and Sandy. We do have a few questions that I wanted to get to before we go to our breakout session. Some of these are quick answers, so I'd like to get them in there. Who owns and manages the spaces?
That's a great question. So it's owned by the city of Akron, and the management's going to be a hybrid model. At Summit Lake, it's really important to have public access all the way around the lake. And as we all know, that oftentimes doesn't happen along our lakes, rivers, and waterways. And so the city of Akron committed to 100% public access around Summit Lake. In addition, as part of one of the funding agreements, Ohio Erie Canalway Coalition has committed to assisting the city of Akron with the maintenance of Summit Lake for 15 years. And in downtown Akron, the city of Akron will most likely be the lead, with other partners providing support and assistance, like Downtown Akron Partnership, possibly Akron Civic Theater, and Ohio Erie Canalway Coalition.
Okay, that's a great answer and a short answer. Somebody would like to know where Kyle got his T-shirt. I know that's not most important.
It'd be better pre-pandemic. I got to get some new swag now, but the farmers markets always have some Summit Lake swag. So come on down. We'll get you. And we're going to be making more this fall.
That was a good question. Good answer. What is the timeline for the whole project?
Great question. We are right now in planning for both Lock 3 and Summit Lake. We will have a groundbreaking for the Ohio Erie Canal Summit Lake Trail this fall. And we will probably do the groundbreaking for Lock 3 in September 2022. And the same timeline for the North Shore Summit Lake. So these projects are actively in both fundraising and planning mode. And our goal is to have them both completed by 2023 or 2024. So they are very actively underway.
Somebody wanted to know if Civic Commons works in certain cities, or what is the process for engaging the Civic Commons process or engagement? Where does it come from?
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, it's a created by foundations entity that there was just a new cohort of, I think, 6 cities, Dan, that came in to the mix, but it is closed in that there are member cities, but we try to share everything we learn and everything that's created. So unfortunately, there's not a way to necessarily join it, but I strongly encourage you to follow them on social media, and there are a number of opportunities through the network. And we in Akron love partnering with lots of other cities, aside and apart from. We've been fortunate to learn a lot from partners in Cleveland, Youngstown, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Detroit. We love regional learning too.
If people are interested in learning more, Andrea, come on in. There's no proprietary to the learning. Yeah. We would be happy to host a city. We do that all the time. We've had people from Philadelphia, Detroit, Memphis, and then we go and visit other cities. So it's actually more of a process than it is, a program.
Okay, very good. You did comment a little bit about the costs and the funding sources. Was there anything else that you wanted to add to that, maybe that it seemed like an insurmountable goal, but you're making progress, that you had some surprise funding sources?
That's a great question, Andrea. And we've worked together for decades. We did start when we were 12. That's why we do look so young. But my philosophy, that it's not about the money, that you need to have visionary projects. And I've said it all the time, and I get teased for this, but in 28 years, I've never seen a project fail because of lack of money. It's not about the money. The money will come. And the reason I love your question is, so phase 1.0 of Akron Civic Commons was a $10 million initiative in those 3 neighborhoods. 2.0 is 20 million. And what we were challenged by other cities, actually, other colleagues, national thought leaders, is we're not thinking big enough. We need to think big. And you're right. When we first did the back of the napkin kind of numbers, it's like, 20 million, that seems like a lot. But I said the same thing then that I'm saying now. The money will come. I didn't know a year ago where the money was going to come from, but that's, as you know, Andrea, with projects, sometimes what you have to have most of is faith. You will get there, and you have to have a vision. And when you have great partners like neighborhood residents and foundations in the city, how could you not make it happen?
That's a good answer too, Dan.
One quick word on getting foundation money into the mix of these projects. It's been a privilege as a representative of Knight Foundation to get to learn right alongside Dan and Sandy and the other members of our team. And we really have a open book, equal table. We're all just here to learn and try to figure things out, and to see the problems, not just waiting for the book report, but seeing the challenges, seeing the process, seeing it. And the city of Akron's been equally embedded. And we're all coming to it like, okay, we can bring different things to the party. How do we make sure that this happens? And how do we use our skill set to do it? And watching our partners all try to bring what they can contribute into the process has been really special. So I would say invite your philanthropic partners to come in some way and learn alongside you.
Yeah, if I could just build on that quickly, Andrea, the relationship I have with Kyle, in 28 years, I've never had this type of relationship. Normally, it's the funders are kind of a little bit arm's length. Kyle he's arms locked. And I will tell you, that is transformational. This project, in addition to number 1 is neighborhood residents, the city, but it's a relationship with Kyle and the Knight Foundation. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his willingness to take a risk on us, be vulnerable, trust us, and encourage us and nurture us and challenges us. I've never had this relationship, and it's amazing.
Great. I look forward to hearing more about that relationship. And Kyle might get a few more Facebook likes because of Dan's wonderful.
That was over the top and kind of him to say, so thank you.
All right, well, we are at the end of our time for this, and we're going to move into our breakout sessions. But first, I wanted to thank Kyle, Dan, and Sandy again for a really engaging and informative and exciting talk about the Civic Commons. I'd like to thank all of our participants online, reminding you that there is a survey that is in the chat, or I'm sorry, in the Q&A that you can click on and fill out, especially if you need CEUs. And we do want your feedback to improve our sessions. Some of the questions that were put in the chat will be taken over to the breakout sessions. And I think that that's it. So we invite you to click the link, join us in the breakout sessions. Not all the speakers will be in all of the rooms, but we will make sure that we have an engaging discussion. Thank you again.